Hello and welcome. I'm Asima Katauka and you are watching News X World. Let's take a look at some of the top stories. Belgian Prime Minister Bart De Wever has said that in his opinion it is best to keep $246 billion in frozen Russian state assets at the Euroclear Security Repository for now, warning that seizing them for Ukraine could create legal problems. The G7 has blocked a total of $300 billion in Russian sovereign funds since 2022. Qatar has said that it is still waiting for Israel's response to a Gaza truce and hostage deal proposal, more than a week after Hamas agreed to the framework. Foreign Ministry spokesperson Majid al-Ansari has confirmed. Al-Ansari has also warned that Israel's current statements highlight the fragile state of mediation efforts. 25 member states have so far suspended its goods shipments to the United States after President Donald Trump's administration scrapped a customs tax exemption for small packages. The Switzerland-based UN agency, which represents 192 countries, added that it raised concerns in a letter to Secretary of State Marco Rubio on 25th of this month. An errant Ukrainian combat drone has exploded over Estonia, 75 kilometers from the Russian border, leaving a crater and causing no casualties, Estonia's Internal Security Service Chief Margo Peluson has confirmed. Authorities said the drone was likely aimed at targets in Russia before going off course. Nigel Farage's Reform UK party, now leading Britain's opinion polls, has announced a plan to repeal human rights laws and exit the European Convention on Human Rights to enable mass deportations of asylum seekers. The move puts current Prime Minister Keir Starmer under intensifying pressure. French Prime Minister Francois Bayrou faces a September 8th confidence vote on his debt-cutting plan, with opposition parties vowing to oust him and markets sliding. Finance Minister Lombard has warned of a potential IMF intervention as a government minister suggested France could be heading for another snap election. Russia hopes to revive its titanium joint venture with Boeing in the Sverdlovsk region. First Deputy Prime Minister Denis Manturov has said the VSMPO-Avisma-Boeing partnership halted in 2022 after Boeing stopped buying Russian titanium, though Moscow says supplies remain available to U.S. firms. Kosovo's parliament has ended a 6-month deadlock by electing Djemal Basha as a speaker with 73 votes, paving the way for Prime Minister Albin Kurti to attempt forming a government. The vote followed more than 50 failed attempts and highlighted deep political divisions in Europe's newest state. In the ongoing conflict between Israel and Hamas, German opposition leader Friedrich Merz has stated that Israel's recent airstrike on a Gaza hospital did not target journalists despite widespread international concern. Merz has also emphasized the need for Israel to ensure the viability of a future Palestinian state, warning that its actions should not make this impossible. Meanwhile, Qatar, acting as a mediator, has called on Israel to take responsibility and respond to a proposed truce. Let's listen into what both leaders have said.
Die massiven Angriffe der israelischen Armee gegen die Stadt Gaza haben Folgen, die wir in den letzten Stunden gesehen haben. Ich glaube im Augenblick nicht, dass das ein gezielter Angriff gegen Journalisten war. Aber die israelische Armee hat und die israelische Regierung, sie haben beide zugesagt, eine umfassende Untersuchung dieses Vorgangs jetzt auszulösen. Und ich möchte dieses Ergebnis abwarten, bevor ich dazu ein abschließendes Urteil abgebe.
But I will say very clearly that there is no engagement, meaning that we are still waiting for an answer. And the statements that we are hearing right now do not fill us with confidence that if there was engagement, that engagement would be positive and towards finding a solution. We have to say it very clearly. The responsibility now lies on the Israeli side to respond to an offer that is on the table. Anything else is political posturing by the Israeli side.
Now for this discussion, we are joined by retired Major General Dr. Rajan Kochhar. He's a senior strategic and defense expert, joins us live from New Delhi. Thank you very much, Major General Doctor, for joining us today. Welcome to NewsX World. How do statements like Friedrich Merz's, which defend Israel's action, on the other hand, while acknowledging the importance of a future Palestinian state, what do you think about this? How does it influence diplomatic efforts, according to you?
Thank you, Asuma. I mean, the situation in Gaza and West Bank suggests that we are very far off right now from a two-state solution. If you remember, there were earlier attempts made to talk about this sort of arrangement, and even in the United Nations, 147 countries out of 193 countries recognize the state of Palestine. And when we also heard that in the month of September, we are going to have 6 more countries recognize the state of Palestine, in which France, Germany, New Zealand, Australia were among the prominent ones. Now, if we take a look at what kind of actions Israel is taking, and when the United Nations has also declared conditions of famine in Gaza, and that implies, as per the United Nations protocol for famine, nationwide famine, it means that more than 20% of the population is malnourished, and they are not having their food, water, and everything on a daily basis. So that implies that if there are 20 lakh people in Gaza, you have almost 2 lakhs and above a population who are suffering. So when we take this into account, and when we also see that no action is being taken with regard to ceasefire, we have heard that Steve Witkoff had initiated the dialogue, and Cairo they were meeting, and Egypt and Qatar were actively pursuing this line. Hamas was also trying to come to terms with the ceasefire, but I don't think Netanyahu has that in his mind. So considering that situation, that we do not foresee any semblance of a two-state solution, and also I'll like to draw your attention to a recent approval of the Israeli government, where 22 Jewish settlements have been announced or approved in West Bank. So that implies that Israel is continuing with its policy of settling its people in these areas which are Palestinian dominated. And in future, as we are seeing for ourselves, this attack on Nasser Hospital, and a number of earlier attacks also on hospital, which is against the international human right laws. So that also gives us a realization that Netanyahu is not concerned about any international agreements. International Court of Justice, International Criminal Court, all these things are secondary to him. And the bottom line here is that the support he is getting from the United States. It is very, very clear that though the United States has condemned this particular action of Israel, and Israel is I'm carrying out some independent inquiry, which we all know that how independent it is and how difficult it is to prove whether it is a forensic evidence also will not be able to
Yes.
give you a conclusion whether it was a mistake or it was intentional.
Yes.
So I think, uh, in
Uh,
my considered opinion, I don't think we are heading towards any kind of a two-state solution to this problem.
yes. Retired Major General Dr. Kochhar, please stay with us and thank you for sharing that insight. Now we stay in this topic. Palestinian youth have clashed with Israeli troops in the West Bank city of Ramallah as the Israeli army raided the city. The Israeli army shot live rounds and gas canisters, while the Palestinian youth threw stones at the army vehicles and troops. 58 Palestinians were injured by live and rubber-coated steel bullets, while others suffered suffocation during the raid, according to the Palestinian Red Crescent Society. Wafa, the Palestinian Authority's official news agency, has reported that the army detained at least 3 people after raiding a currency exchange shop. According to reports, the Israeli army has said that a statement will be released later. Now we go back to our guest discussion with retired Major General Dr. Rajan Kochhar. He's a senior strategic and defense expert. Thank you very much, Major General, for staying with us. Now, how might these clashes affect any prospects for peace negotiation, or do you think these further escalate tensions in the region?
Subha, I think there is absolutely no doubt in my mind that it is going to escalate issues there. Because if your intent is not there to have peace in an area, you are going to resort to these kind of measures. See, now if you are going to increase your population in West Bank, and if you are going to settle more of Jews there, you are going to find that there will be a number of checks on the movement of Palestinians. Even from their homes, if they are going for work on a daily basis, there are going to be a number of checkposts on the way, and they're going to be stopped on a number of points, and there will be searches and things like this. So, when you start taking out these kind of measures in any society, and if you are targeting a particular section of the society, you are not building up any kind of a trust towards peace.
Yes.
Because when we talk about peace and tranquility in any region of the world, I think the trust is one important factor which has to be exhibited from both sides. I will not totally blame the Israelis for what is happening today,
Yes.
because it's a two-sided affair. Because Palestinians, if we remember 7th of October, I don't think nobody can forget what happened on 7th October.
Yes.
That has uh, a sort of a catalyst. It has been a catalyst to what is actually happening today. And the very kind of a strategy in case Netanyahu feels that he can eliminate Hamas, I don't think that is possible. Because
Yes.
if you have
Major.
killed almost 30,000 of their cadres, 30 more thousand have already joined them. And when you kill 61,000 Palestinians, there would be so much of hatred uh, for the Jews as well as for the Israelis that I don't think even 4 to 5 generations it will take to
Yes.
have this kind of a peace in this region. Because even if these mechanisms, ceasefire and things like that, when we talk about, these are temporary measures.
Yes, Major General.
They are not lasting measures.
Yes, I completely agree with you that there has to be a trust, otherwise there cannot be taken any steps to a lasting peace. Thank you very much, Major General Dr. Rajan Kochhar, for joining us today and sharing your insight throughout this news. Now we stay in Middle East. Iran has expressed strong concerns over the possible reimposition of United Nations sanctions through the so-called snapback mechanism. This process could reinstate sanctions if Tehran is found violating its nuclear commitments. The snapback is gaining attention as a decade-old nuclear deal between Iran and major powers, including France, Britain, and Germany, is both set to expire on October 18th this year.
رفع تحریم ها تو این برهه خاص قاعدتاً موضوع قطعنامه 2231 و وضعیت پیش رو در رابطه با این قطعنامه بخشی از گفتگو خواهد بود و در ازای اون اعتماد سازی، شفاف سازی که تا الان هم وجود داشته در مورد ماهیت صلح‌آمیز برنامه هسته ایران و از این حیث تغییر ماهوی در موضوع مذاکرات حادث نشده.
For this discussion, we are joined by John Rosomondo. He's a president of Viking Research Associates and geopolitical analyst. Joins us live from Washington, D.C.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much for joining us, John. Good to see you. Now, could this threat of renewed sanctions push Iran towards renewed compliance, or do you think that Tehran might harden its position?
Well, I think Tehran has shown a decades-long tendency to harden its position in the face of international pressure. I am very doubtful that any sort of sanctions will cause Iran to back down. I mean, we have a closer relationship than ever between Russia and Iran. My sources say that Iran has been sending weapons to Iran, and I don't see this as going to stop Tehran from trying to regain its nuclear program.
And John, now, what are the broader geopolitical implications for Europe and the United States as the decade-old nuclear deal nears expirations?
Well, I think that pretty much the Iranians have not honored their end of their deal. They've continued their development of their nuclear program even before the U.S. Pulled out of the agreement in 2018. I think that we're going to see Iran become more aggressive in terms of its ballistic missile program, in terms of its nuclear program, its effort to reconstitute what was destroyed last June.
Thank you very much, John, for sharing that insight. Please stay with us as we come back to you and we stay in this topic. Now we move to Australia. Iran has vowed reciprocal action after Australia expelled its ambassador over accusations linking Tehran to anti-Semitic arson attacks in Sydney and Melbourne. This comes after Australia's Prime Minister Anthony Albanese announced the expulsion of Iran's ambassador to Canberra, citing credible intelligence that Iran was involved in directing the attacks on a Sydney restaurant and a Melbourne mosque. Iran's foreign ministry has rejected the accusations, promising a reciprocal reaction to what it called an unjustified diplomatic move. Albanese condemned the attacks, warning that they come amid a significant rise in anti-Semitic acts in Australia since the Israel-Hamas war began.
هر کنش نامناسبی و ناموجهی در سطح دیپلماتیک واکنش متقابلی رو در پی خواهد داشت. این تحول جدید هست. همکاران من مشغول بررسی موضوع و تصمیم گیری در مورد نحوه پاسخ ما هستند. اما اتهامی که مطرح شده مطلقاً مردود هست.
Now for this discussion, we go back to John Rosomondo. He's a president of Viking Research Associates and geopolitical analyst. Thank you very much, John, for staying with us. Now, how do you think, can we trust these accusations over Iran? What are your analysis?
Analysis based on good information is that Iran uses Shiite mosques and other Islamic entities in Australia to target pro-Israel Jews in their activities in Australia. So the Australians are very much justified in what they're doing. I mean, the Iranians just got caught. I mean, it's like in the United States and Europe, Iran uses Shiite mosques as cover for their dirty tricks.
And John, what do you think, what measures can Australia take to address and prevent such attacks without escalating diplomatic tensions?
Well, I think that the only thing that Iran understands is escalation. I mean, if you show weakness, it will roll all over you, as it's done in the Middle East. It's caused wars. It's even here in the United States, threatened former National Security Advisor John Bolton, sponsored kidnappings and so forth. So Iran only understands force.
And John, what are the potential diplomatic and security consequences of Australia's decision to expel Iran's ambassador?
I don't see anything like major in the near term. I mean, the Iranians will complain a bit. Maybe they'll do something, but I don't see that there'll be any long-term ramifications.
Thank you very much, John Rosamondo, for joining us and sharing your insight throughout our news. Thank you very much. Now we move on to our next news. UK's anti-migration party Reform UK, led by Nigel Farage, has unveiled a plan to repeal human rights laws to enable mass deportations of asylum seekers. Farage said removing Britain from the European Convention on Human Rights and repealing the Human Rights Act is necessary to prevent major civil disorder. The party claims its plan could deport up to 600,000 asylum seekers in its first term, focusing on individuals from countries like Pakistan, Afghanistan, Iran, and Bangladesh, many arriving on small boats across the Channel. Prime Minister Keir Starmer faces pressure as immigration overtakes the economy as voters' top concern. Government ministers have called Reform UK's proposal gimmicks and warned of risks to international agreements, including the Good Friday Agreement. Farage has defended this plan, arguing it prioritizes the safety of women and children, while the government continues to focus on cracking down on people smuggling and reforming the asylum system. Now we're joined by Keith Vaz. He's a former UK minister, joins us live from London. Thank you very much, Keith, for joining us again. Good to see you. Now, what was your reaction when you heard this law?
Well, the sad part of it, I think, is that all the major political parties are now trying to outdo themselves in trying to tell everyone that they're going to remove illegal migrants from the UK. And this is unfortunately where we're all going on immigration in the UK. It's the biggest issue at the moment in UK politics. Clearly, the current government has failed to deliver on this. There are 100,000 asylum seekers who've arrived in the UK since last year, and 50,000 have come on boats illegally. So the Reform Party is obviously trying to put forward its own method of how to deal with these issues. And I'm sorry to say it's not particularly let's say, fair to those people who try to come here legally. So this is a dramatic announcement. Of course, yes. Reform is not in government. They are still in opposition, and therefore this is not going to happen tomorrow, but it is clearly going to worry people about what's going to happen in the future. So this will continue to be a hot political issue as far as the United Kingdom is concerned. This is not going to go away.
And how would repealing the Human Rights Act and withdrawing from the European Convention on Human Rights impact the UK's legal obligations and also its international reputation?
Well, it's clearly going to have a huge impact on our international reputation. We are one of the original signatories to the European Convention, but the problem is that many people keep appealing once they have found their case has been lost, and parties like Reform and the Conservative Party believe that the only way around this is to repeal this legislation, because nobody wants to do things that are unlawful. Therefore, I think the most important aspect of this is to try hard to look and see where the law will go after this is over. And that is the difficult part. I think at the end of the day, you probably need a new Bill of Rights, which sets out the responsibilities and rights of the state and the public. But it is going to be very controversial.
And yes, it might be controversial, but how can the government balance border security concerns with, again, humanitarian responsibilities?
Well, they should read the report that I wrote with the rest of my committee when I was in Parliament in 2016, published in August. The only way to deal with this is to talk to the source countries, where these people are coming from in particular. That's Eritrea, it's Afghanistan, it's Syria, these are the countries. I mean, having said that, there were 5,000 who'd come from India, but they are probably settled people here who were here in one capacity who've then claimed asylum. So there's no evidence that the subcontinent countries are using boats to do this. But I'm afraid everyone gets lumped in together. So you have to deal with the source countries. They need to appoint a czar who will work with the Home Secretary and talk to these countries about what can be done. And at the same time, they need to have a better relationship with the French. They're all coming from France on boats. They're not coming from other countries. And there is evidence that French police officers are watching these boats leaving French territory, actually watching them while they set sail and arrive in the UK. So this must have the consent, at least the blind consent of the French government.
Yes, I think you should remind the UK ministers to read what you wrote, and I would also like to read that too. Thank you very much, Keith Vaz, for joining us and sharing your insight as a former UK minister. This is all we have time for. We will continue to bring you more news updates from around the world.